Okay, let's start with the part no one really wants to say out loud. If your entire personality revolves around your boss's approval, your team's Slack thread, or your salary bump at Q3, then your operating system isn't broken. It's just boring. And it's not going to take you anywhere worth going. And now I know that stinks, but if you're here, you didn't come here for comfort. You came here for clarity. And clarity starts with this. You are not your job title. There, I said it. You are not the sum of what others think of you. And you are definitely not your routine, your lunch break, or your LinkedIn bio. Hi, my name is Kaspari, and this is the Unshakable People podcast, where we take the scalpel to the narratives that keep you small, that keep you tired and sedated. And we carve open the possibility of who you could potentially become instead. And today we are going very deep. We're going into the layers of personality, of perception and identity. What the world has told you you are, and what you've decided to believe. Because here's the hard truth wrapped in some soft velvet. There is no such thing as objective reality. There is only your interpretation of this reality. Let that settle for a second. Everything you see, everything you feel, and everything you react to, it's all filtered. It's all processed. It's all projected through the lens of who you think you are. And that means your entire life isn't a reflection of what it is. It's a reflection of the character that you've been playing. And the question here isn't, is it true? The question in reality is, does this personality, this character, still serve me? Now, here, today. So let's zoom out for a second. Why do 10 people see the same event and come away with 10 different conclusions? Because they are not reacting to the event. They are reacting to their internal map of the world. And that map is built from memory. It's built from trauma, from experience, from education, culture, fantasy, pain, pleasure, everything. Basically, it's built from the story. It's always about the story. So let me offer you a definition. Not a clinical one, but a very human one. Personality is the collection of stories you have told yourself about who you are and who you have been and what's possible for you. It includes the roles that you play and the patterns that you repeat, the future that you expect, and of course it includes the past that you keep replaying. And now here's where it gets tricky. We mistake sometimes the story for the actual truth. We believe our current identity is something fixed, like it was carved in stone, but it's not. It's like a software, it's a code, it's a download, and likely, like any software, it can be rewritten. But to rewrite it, you have to first realize that you are running on a script. Right now, you might be running the I am just an ordinary person doing my best kind of script. Or the I'm too broken for big things kind of script. Or maybe you're running as long as I'm safe, I don't need more kind of script. And it's fine. It's not wrong, it's not right, it's just sort of limited. Because whatever personality you're using right now, it determines pretty much everything. It determines what you believe you can have, what kind of love you allow, what kind of job you apply for, what risks you think are worth taking, what kind of endings you accept without protest. And the problem here isn't that people lack potential. It's that they are stuck in the wrong personality, a character that was built to survive but not to thrive. So let me give you some image here to picture this. Imagine you are playing a video game and you choose a character, say a villager from a small forest town. And they wear those like simple clothes, they know how to chop wood, they bake bread, they barter at the market, all these things. And you play this character so long that you forget it was just one of the options. And you start thinking to yourself, this is who I am. I live in the woods, I trade potatoes, and I survive. This is your reality at that time. But what if, and stay with me here, what if one day you stumble upon a hidden scroll in the game? And the scroll says, you are not the villager. In fact, you are the exiled prince, the warrior of light, the ancient hire for a long-forgotten kingdom, whatever it is. And everything shifts. The forest, it's not your home anymore. It's your exile. The villages, they are not your tribe. They are your cover. And the potatoes, they are just temporary. So your identity rewires, your goals reconfigure, and your world just flips. And the wildest part is that nothing has changed on the outside. You are still in the same forest, you are still wearing those same boots, and you are still bartering bread. But inside, you now remember who you are. And suddenly the old goals, they no longer make sense. The raise, the approval, the corner office, they are not even on the radar. Because now you're on a quest, on a different quest. And this is what it means to change your personality at the soul level, to choose a different character, to rewrite your map of what is possible, not because of therapy or because of trauma, but because you decide to remember the truth. You are more than the world ever taught you to be. Okay, so in the next part of the episode, I'll take you even deeper into what happens when you stay in the wrong personality for too long, how it creates neurosis, disconnection, and the illusion that life, in fact, is meaningless. And we will talk about why the most radical thing that you can do is actually pick a better character, one that wants the life you secretly dream about. So, what happens if you stay in the wrong personality for too long? Here is what: you don't just feel stuck. You start to deteriorate psychologically, emotionally, and even spiritually, even physically. And no, I'm not being dramatic here, because a personality is more than just a set of quirks. It's the interface between you and the reality. It's how you process conflict, how you process beauty, and how you measure your worth. It's the filter through which all incoming signals are judged and categorized by your brain. So, if that filter is warped, you'll start interpreting the life through a lens of distortion. And you'll start saying things like, I don't belong anywhere. Nothing ever works out for me. People always disappoint me. And something like, I'm too intense, I'm too much, I'm not enough. Does any of this sound familiar? I thought so. And let me be clear. This is not because your life is objectively harder than everyone else's. It's because the character that you are playing is no longer compatible with your evolution. You are growing, but your personality isn't. And that mismatch creates friction. You feel it as burnout. You start feeling it as anxiety, as emptiness, like something inside you is whispering, this isn't it. This just can't be it. And that whisper, it's not madness, not neurosis. It's basically the part of you that just remembers who you really are. But here's the tragedy. Most people ignore that whisper. They just sedate it. They scroll it away. They drink it down and productivity hack their way around it. And slowly but surely they forget. They forget that they were once artists or warriors or visionaries or creators or wanderers. They trade all that sacred fire for routines that basically just numb them just enough to function. And then they call it adulthood. And let me give you just some more harsh truth. Most adult personalities are just trauma responses with a LinkedIn page. And we call it professionalism in the real world. We call it realism. We call it being responsible. But in reality, it's just fear. Fear that if we let that real self out, we will just lose everything. And here's the paradox. The longer you deny your real self, the more everything starts to feel lost. You just lose your passion, your ability to connect deeply, your curiosity, your sense of why the hell you are actually doing any of this at all. And this is where neurosis comes in, not as pathology, but as a signal. Neurosis is your system trying to break through a personality that no longer fits. It's basically your soul screaming through the walls of the character that you've outgrown. It's your truth rattling the cage that you've mistaken for your identity. So now let's zoom in on this. What do you actually do when the character that you've been playing no longer matches your soul? Here's your answer. You switch, you pick another character, you change. And no, you don't need a therapist to grant you this permission. You don't need to meditate on a mountain for 90 days. You don't need like some kind of a spiritual awakening on a yoga mat in Ubud. All you need is just to choose, just to say, I'm no longer the tired version of myself that life built for survival. I choose to play a bigger game, a different game. And that's it. That's the turning point. But let's make it concrete. Let's say you've been living as some corporate loyalist and your life revolves actually around quarterly reviews like office gossip and whether your manager likes you or not. You move through your day like an avatar on autopilot. You eat your lunch at your desk, you shrink when challenged, you apologize for having ideas, and basically you've been conditioned to think small and stay polite. This is what corporate culture is about. And then one day you remember, maybe from a book or from some conversation or from some breakdown, you just get this insight. You remember a part of you that used to dream of more. And I'm not talking about more money or more followers, but about more realness, more adventure, more aliveness, more breath. And so you start to question the personality. You poke at it and you say things like, what if I'm not actually this passive, agreeable, apologetic version of myself? What if this character was downloaded without my consent? What if I've been running an identity that doesn't even belong to me? And boom, that's the bridge. That's the moment that your old script starts to glitch. And your new self, the one that was buried under years of expectation, just starts to emerge. And it's terrifying. This is a very scary feeling because the old you had predictable problems, right? And the new you just has power, just presence. And freedom can in fact be terrifying when you've been safe in your limitations for too long. But guess what? That fear, that discomfort, that trembling sense of who the hell am I becoming, that's the birthplace of the real you. And in the next part of the episode, I'm going to walk you into that birthplace. I'm going to show you how to choose your next identity, not as a fantasy, but as a conscious evolution. We'll explore the metaphor of exile and return, and we'll look at the archetype of the hidden one, the warrior in disguise, the sage in the factory, and the forgotten goddess in the back office. And we'll begin writing a story where your personality isn't a prison, it's your platform. So make sure to stay tuned. Okay, let's step into it now. Imagine you've been living in exile your entire life, only you didn't know about it. You thought this world, the fluorescent lights, the email threads, the polite nods in meetings, and the 2.5 kids and mortgage, that was the world. And you thought playing nice and staying quiet and adjusting to fit in was actually noble. And you thought small talk was in fact intimacy, and overworking was proof that you were valuable. But what if I told you you're not from here? And stay with me on this one. What if you are not from this version of reality at all? What if you are something ancient, powerful, and entirely misplaced, like a starship pilot dropped into a gas station job in Kansas, and you've just been doing your best to blend in, but it's not working? Because deep down inside, you know this isn't it. This isn't the life. This isn't your story. And now let's play with the metaphor, because sometimes fiction just tells the truth better than facts ever can. So picture this. You travel somewhere far, somewhere remote and forgotten by time. And let's say it's a village. Deep in the forest, no electricity, no signal, and people just live by their old rhythms. Chopping wood, milking goats, sewing clothes by candlelight, whatever they do. And you came here by accident. Or maybe you were drawn here by something you couldn't name. You're like the outsider. You look different. You speak differently. But the moment you arrive, something strange happens. You forget. You forget who you were. You chop wood like others. You carry water. You tend animals. You sleep under the stars and wake before the sun. And your days blur. Your dreams flicker. Your memory of who you used to be just fades. Until one day, something arrives, a group of strangers, strangely dressed, eyes alert. They walk through the village like silent, unbothered, unimpressed. And then one of them sees you and they stop. Their eyes lock on yours and suddenly you feel it. Something inside you begins to stir, and it's not fear. It's not recognition. It's remembrance. They reach into a pouch and they pull out a small glowing device, nothing like anything that you've ever seen here. And they point it at you, a beam of light, a shimmer, a flash, and boom, on the screen, it's your face. Not as you are now, but as you were. The bold, the radiant, the alive, a person who remembers the stars, a person who once believed that they were made for more. And your voice echoes through the device, a recording, and you hear yourself say something you don't remember saying. Don't forget who you are. You are on an assignment. You are the one we've been waiting for. And the villagers, they don't understand. They call the strangers liars. They say you've been bewitched. But something inside you has already changed. You can't unsee it. You can't just unhear it. You can't go back to chopping wood and calling it destiny. And this is the metaphor for awakening from your false personality. It doesn't matter where you live, really. It doesn't matter how much money you make right now. It doesn't matter if your life looks functional or not. If the chapter you're playing no longer reflects the truth of who you are in exile. But the beauty of exile is that it ends the moment that you remember. You don't need anyone's permission, you know? You don't need proof. You just need the trust that the part of you that feels out of place isn't broken. It's just away. And now let's make this practical. How do you switch characters? How do you do it in real life? How do you stop playing the role of the office mouse, the obedient employee, the second-rate version of yourself, and just start doing something else? Well, step one, you build a new character. And it's not a random process, it's not reckless, it's intentional. And you just ask yourself, who do I need to become to live the life I actually crave for? What kind of identity would make those dreams normal instead of impossible? And who is the person for whom my version is obvious? And then you write that character. Quite literally, you just take a pen and write it. You script it. You speak it out loud. You dress like them. You think like them. You move like them. Not because you are faking or trying to fake something, but because you are choosing intentionally. Your current identity was assembled by default, and this new one, it's built by design, and that's a huge difference. You are the architect now. You are the dreamer and the implementer, and no one gets to tell you who you are. Not the culture, not the trauma, not even your old self. And here's the catch. The moment you switch characters, everything around you will resist. Your old life will want you back. The people who benefited from your smallness will call you arrogant. The systems that relied on your silence will label you as dangerous. And that's a good thing. Be dangerous to every lie that told you to shrink, to every structure that asked you to betray your soul, to every part of you that forgot it was divine. Because here's the truth that again, nobody in society wants to tell you you are allowed to reinvent. Not once, not twice, but as many damn times as it takes. And you can switch out the tired personality you downloaded once from society. You can remember your fire, and you can rebuild the life that you were meant to live, one bold character shift at a time. And in the final part of this episode, we'll close the loop. I'll show you what happens when your inner reality begins to rewire your outer world. We'll talk about magic, not as fantasy, but as the natural result of choosing a new self. And we'll ask the question that matters more than any other. Who do you want to become next? Stay tuned. So let's finish this the way all true transformations end. Not with a bang, but with a moment of silence, a moment where you pause, a moment where the noise fades and the question floats to the surface. And the question is, who am I now that I've remembered? Not remembered everything, obviously, not remembered your entire past or your entire soul lineage or every mission that you forgot you were on, but you remembered enough to now know. This version of me isn't the final one. This is where the magic begins. And I don't mean magic as in spells or wands or magic dust. I mean the kind of magic that happens when your inner reality gets so bold, so bright, so unapologetic that the outer world can't just help but shift around it. And it all starts slowly. You notice that people begin responding to you differently, that the invitations that used to drain you just stop arriving, and the new opportunities, they just start showing up in your inbox at odd hours. And you are drawn to different colors, you wear different clothes, you start different conversations, and you begin choosing peace without any guilt. And you say no much faster and you say yes much louder. And your world just starts to reorganize itself around this new identity that you've claimed. And it's real. It is alchemy. Not because you changed the world, but because you changed the one who looks at it. You changed the perspective. You changed the personality and the character. And look, I'm not selling you a fairy tale. Again, I'm not promising that if you visualize hard enough, everything will work out. This isn't about manifestation in a bikini on the beach. This is your inner wall. It is dismantling the system in your brain that said you are not allowed to want more or to be different. Because remember, your personality is not you. It's a software update. It's a temporary structure. It's just a character and you are the author. And the beauty of being the author is that you can change the plot at any time, in any scene, without any explanation, without any warning, without needing to earn it, and without feeling any guilt. You can wake up one morning and just say, okay, today I play the warrior. And today I play the rebel. Today I play the version of me that isn't afraid to be seen. And the world around you, it will just adjust. Not because the world is fair, it isn't, but because your inner world is now louder than your outer limitations. And that, my friend, is power. And that power is real, and that power is yours. So let me tell you just one last story before we land this plane. In the village, remember the metaphor we played with earlier, there was a man. And he wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, he just disappeared for weeks at a time and came back with strange objects. And no one asked any questions, no one cared, until someone started noticing. And that someone was you. And when you noticed, like really noticed, everything shifted. You started asking questions about objects around you, about memory, about the meaning. And you started seeing two realities at once. The quiet, the primitive world that you'd accepted as life, and something else. Something you couldn't explain, but you were already feeling it deep in your chest. And the man who left and returned, it wasn't a mystery. He was a symbol. He was a mirror. He was the version of you who already remembered. He was not a different person. It was just a version of you who already knew that there was more, who had already chosen his next self and wasn't just waiting for permission to live it. And that man lives inside you. And so does the warrior, and so does the oracle, and so does the sovereign in each and every single one of us. And no matter how long you have worn that mask of someone smaller, no matter how many years you've spent playing roles that made you safe, you are always just one choice away from becoming dangerously, unapologetically whole again. So I'll leave you with this. Who do you choose to be right now? Not who do you wish you could be, not who do others expect you to be, not who makes sense on paper in society, but you. Who do you ache to become? And that's your next character. And that's your next life. That's your next level. And I dare you to play it like it's the only one that matters, because maybe in fact it is. If this episode cracked something open in you, and I hope it did, if you found a mirror here or some memory or a map, please kindly like, share and subscribe to spread the word, and send it to someone who is also stuck in the wrong script. Someone that you love, someone who needs to remember. Yet again, my name is Kaspari. This was the Unshakable People podcast, and I will see you the next time. And until then, stay wild, stay remembering, and stay unshakable. High fly with me. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.